Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. I hope all of you are fine and doing well. So, topic here that we are going to discuss today it is basically interstitial compounds and the alloy formation. Now, here these two topics are just new to us. That what type of the elements that they are going to form these types of the compounds like interstitial and alloy formation. Basically, here we will discuss that compound which is related to the transition elements. As we have already known that what does mean by the transition elements, these are the elements which just belong to D as well as F blocks in the periodic table. Why they are being called as D and F block elements? The reason is this, they have their electrons of the valence shell in F and D subshells. So that's why they are called as F and D block elements. On the other hand, the transition elements have partially filled d orbitals, so that's why they are called as transition elements. And we have the transition elements from group 1b to group 8b. All the elements in the group 1b to group 8b are called as transition elements. Now, these are the transition elements that can have the two forms of the compounds. The first one is interstitial compounds, and the second one is alloy formation. So, here we will discuss these two compounds one by one. So, let's have a look on the interstitial compounds. Interstitial compounds are the compounds that are being formed when there is a small atoms of hydrogen, carbon and nitrogen. So here we have three small atoms. The first one is hydrogen, then carbon and nitrogen. Along with there will also exist the boron. They just get trapped inside the crystal lattice of the metals. When the metals just arrange in the form of rows one after the other, then they are making their structure type, which is called as the crystal lattice structure. So the small molecules like these hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen and boron, they get trapped into the spaces or the crystal lattice. When they just get trapped like this, in this picture you can see that this is the simple structure of the or the atoms of the metals, and inside there is a trapped small molecules which are called as trapped atoms, and they just get trapped into the interstitial voids. Interstitial voids, these are the smaller spaces that are existing between the bonded atoms of the metals. So they get wrapped into this. That type of compounds are basically known as interstitial compounds. And we have a number of interstitial compounds that are formed by the transition metals. Transition metals, we have a lot of transition metals. They can only react with the elements such as the hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and boron, and etc. Or other small atoms of an element, and in turn they are going to form the interstitial compounds. On the other hand, what are the being properties of these compounds? These compounds are basically called as non-stoichiometric compounds. Their property is they are being called as non-stoichiometric compounds. So we can not be able to measure all the properties of these types of the compounds. On the other hand, sometimes we also term these interstitial compounds as interstitial alloys. They are also called as interstitial alloys. So this is number one class of the interstitial compound that is being formed by the transition metals. After this we have the second class which is called as alloy formation. First of all, you guys must know that what does mean by the alloy. Alloy is basically a mixture of two metals or a metal and a non-metal. Simple, when there is a solid metal, it is going to combine with the metal which is also solid. On the other hand, when there is a metal and it is going to be combined with the other non-metal, then their resulting product is called as alloy. And this process of alloy formation is known as alloying. Like here, we have the iron. and carbon. They are making up the steel. On the other hand, when we have copper and tin, they are making the bronze. So here, this is a simple picture description that is about the alloy formation. We have all these atoms which are being called as the metal atoms. And here, there is just the attachment of the B elements which are being non-metals. So this process is basically called as alloying, in which one metal is going to combine with the other metal, or one metal is going to combine with the other non-metal. All these products are basically called as the alloy formation. And we have a lot of alloys, like here we just discussed the steel. On the other hand, there is a second, which is the bronze. Now after this we have the third class, which are called as the substitutional alloy formation. This is also being done by the transition elements. Transition elements are the elements that are belonging to group F and B block, B group elements, or F and D block elements. They are called as transition elements. Now what does mean by the substitutional alloy? Here we have the picture in this. This is basically just occurring due to the reason owing to the some similarities in the sizes. There are some transition metals. What they do, they're just able to replace one another in a metallic lattice. Metallic lattice is the simple structure of the metals that they are forming when they just combine to make the bond. They just replace one another in the metallic lattice, and they just form the compound that is called as being substitutional alloy. For example, here we have a compound like benzene, and on it we have chlorine. But when there is another like bromine comes, it just replaces the chlorine, and we just gain the new compound like bromo compound. Now this bromo compound is formed just the bromine replaces the chlorine. Likewise here, the transition metals, due to their similarity in the size, they just replace themselves in the metallic lattice. In turn, they form the type of compound which is called as substitutional alloys. And alloys of the steels are very important example of this type of material. Here we have another example, which is the substitutional solid solution, in which we have copper and nickel. This is the simple copper, and in the green we have nickel. Or we can also write it as this is the simple iron, and in the center here we have the carbon. This is a simple interstitial solid solution, and this is the substitutional solid solution, in which there is a substitution of one by other to make the new one compound. We have another a lot of examples of substitutional compounds, like we have brass, we have coinage alloys. Coinage alloys, these are the alloys that are making up the coins, are called as coinage alloys. So this was all about today's topic. I hope you guys understand. And if you have any queries, you may ask me about that in the comment section, and I will get back to you guys soon. The next topic that we will discuss today, it is the complex compounds. For that time, you guys keep learning and have a good day.